Hey there, Web Design 2 and Advanced Web Design. It is time to do a little bit of review, and what we're going to do for review today is we are going to build our HTML skeleton. Now, what you should remember from before is that the skeleton is that required set of tags that all documents must have. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this skeleton as a template for every document that we create. And today we're going to just build it from scratch here, and we're going to remind ourselves of what some of these tags are and how exactly it is that we write HTML and CSS. So to start with here, we have the thing that we should have already done at this point in time, which is create our Web Design 2 or Advanced Web Design folder for this semester. And I created this here, Web 2-2021. You can do semester 2. We should have had a naming convention in place for this. Now, the point of this is that all of your files need to go inside of this folder. Managing your files is going to be one of the most critically important tasks that we do. As you will see very, very shortly, once we update and upload them to GitHub, rather, it's going to be very important that they're all in the right order. So having this folder is critical. If you've not created this folder on either your Chromebook or your PC, please do so now. And what we're going to do is then create a file. It's called skeleton.html. So remember that all of the files that we create need to have this extension added onto them. It might change. There might be some different ones that we use, but for right now, this .html file extension is the thing that we need. So skeleton.html is what you need to name your file. And with most things here, I have mine open. I called mine skeleton demo. I've already done this once for you on my own here. So as we go through the demo, I can show you more effectively, and not you don't have to wait to do all of the stuff. So let's go ahead and get started building our actual file here. So the first thing that we need up at the top on line 1 is that we have to tell Google Chrome. So these HTML files are processed by a web browser. That could be Google Chrome, that could be Internet Explorer, that could be Edge, that could be Firefox, it could be Opera, that could be Mozilla. There's a bazillion and a half different web browsers. The one we are going to use exclusively is Google Chrome, or if you use a different one, that's your choice. But Google Chrome is what we use for school because we are a Google school. So remember our caret. So we hold shift and the key next to that letter M, and it's essentially the less than sign. And we're going to go exclamation doc type, and HTML is what we're going to do. So what we're telling here is Google Chrome is we're saying this is an HTML document that you are about to process. The other options would be CSS or text or PDF, or a variety of different files that our browsers can open. So doc type HTML. Remember your carets, and make sure that as you type this stuff, everything looks exactly as it does on my screen. And I just took a second here to make it a little bit larger in the editor for you, so hopefully it's a little bit easier for you to see. So the next thing we have to say is we say that we've identified this as an HTML document. The next tag we use is HTML. This says that our HTML is going to start here and stop here. So everything that we do is going to be between these tags, and we're telling Google Chrome, okay, our HTML is about to start. So inside of our HTML tags here, we have two different sections of our HTML document. First one is the head section. So the head is all the non-visible elements. And in the head section of our document here, we are going to put a number of non-visible elements. But we'll come back and we'll do the CSS portion in just a few minutes. We're going to just go ahead and finish the document setup first. So the head section is first off. The second section is actually we'll do an HTML here. We need really one tag to start, which is the title tag. And we're just going to say page title in all caps, and that's going to signify something that we have to change as we use this and we put this into our whatever we're creating, which first will be our index. So the second section is the body section. And the body is where all of our visible elements are going to go. So we're going to actually usually do quite a lot inside of the body. We're going to hit enter a few times to make this happen. And we're going to then go to File, and we're going to save this thing up. That File menu is in Caret and VS Code. I'm going to use VS Code as I demonstrate. Caret, it works the same way. Go to File and hit Save, or Control S if you like to use your keyboard shortcuts. So inside of our body, we then are going to divide our document a little bit further. Inside of the body is going to be kind of like it would be a Google Doc, where we divide it into a header, a main navigation and main portion of the page, and then a footer. And each one of those sections will have a purpose. So first off is our header section. And we're just going to say page title, or we'll just put header. Just like that, just so there's something in there, and as we do the CSS, you can actually see it happen. This is the kind of thing that we would replace as well, and put stuff inside of it that's important. So the nav section... Whoops, I can spell really, I can. So the nav section is where the navigation goes. That's where all of the links to other pages within the website go. For the first few here, it's probably going to be kind of blank, just so we can kind of get started and review. The next thing is going to be our div tag. And again, we're going to put a couple of enters in between there. And in our opening one here, we're going to add a class of container. And remember, class identifies this, so when we write our CSS, we can apply CSS to this specific thing and not all of the things indeed. So we have our header section, we have our nav section, we have our div with a class of container. The thing to finish out the HTML portion is going to be the footer. And there we have divided the body section of our document up into different parts. And right now this is a template, so there's not a whole lot going on in any one of these particular parts. This is just essentially so we don't have to do this each time. It's really to make our life easier. So we have all of the sections written out. Let's take a quick look and see what this page looks like right now. And right now you can tell that this page looks like absolutely nothing. It looks like no web page you would ever want to go to. It is just blank. And that's because we don't have any CSS in this page. And there's a couple of things that are from previous classes. There's a couple of things that are a little bit more new to us here. But let's go ahead and put some of the CSS on now. So remember, our CSS all is going to go up in the head section of the document. And in that head section of the document, we put our style tag to make sure that our CSS can be written in the page. So give me a moment to write this out here. So that style tag is going to be where all of our CSS in this page goes. Now we'll do this a variety of different ways, and this is going to be the most basic way right here. So what we're going to do is, for the first part, I'm going to just give you something, and we're going to use this a little bit later. So we're going to use this thing is called :root. And we're going to put a comment here for CSS, which is this /***, put our variables. And we're not going to talk about CSS variables at this moment. However, we will at some point in the very near future. This is just here for when we do. So going on, we have this star selector, and that, remember, is a select all. Star says apply this towards every single thing on our HTML page, and we do this in this case to remove some of the pre-formatting that we don't want. What we do is we want to do all of our own thing. And we want these three elements. We want our margin to be 0, our padding to be 0, and our box sizing to be border box. So when we go and we have this page, we don't want weird things to happen based on what is the default. So we just take it all off right away to say that's what we want. So moving on, we have our body section. So the body, remember our CSS here, we have our curly braces. The curly braces are shift and the key next to P, the two keys next to P. And for our body, what we're going to do is we're just going to set a background color. And in this case, we're just going to use the word background. And we will say that we want it to be light. We'll say, which one of these light colors do we want to use? We'll just say light gray for right now. So let's just go double check and make sure that we're in the right spot here. In our page, what we should have now, we've done the background color. So of this entire page, it's white right now, is now going to turn light gray. And you see that our header, nav section, and footer have moved up into the very top corner of the page. So our CSS applies. Especially in the beginning, as we're reminding, test frequently to make sure that your CSS is applying the way that you want it to apply. Otherwise, you get to the end and you realize that you did something wrong, and then it's a long time to fix the code, and we don't want that. All right, so we have that. So what we're going to do inside of our header section here is we're just going to set a padding of, we'll say in this case, we'll do 2 rems. So rem is one of our measurement units. We'll review the measurement units very shortly. And we'll say everything inside of our header, we are going to align our text to center just because I like it. So as you review our page here, we'll test frequently. We have header, which is very small up at the top. Now it aligns to the center and spaces everything out, which is what we want. So footer, nav is next, I'm sorry. So we're going to set a background of, we'll say black, and a color of white. And these colors are things that what we're always going to pick a color palette to start. Black and white is just my kind of way to say that you haven't really changed it yet. So for our nav section here, it's going to not look very good right now because we only have the word nav section in there. But you do see this black kind of band going across there, and that is indeed what we're looking for here. We'll add some CSS for the nav section shortly. That will be one of our next reviews. So for our footer, we are going to set a couple of different things. We're going to set our background to be the same as our heading, or our nav, which is, if I could only spell, it is black. We'll change the color to white. So background is the, sorry, I can't do 2 things at once. Background is the color in back of the text. Color is the actual color of the text. So if you have a black background with black text, you won't see it. So we're going to set a padding of 3 rems here. And we are also going to set a minimum height. And we're going to say that that's going to be 10 VH, which is 10% of the viewport or the available space on the screen. So let's go double check real quick. So we have footer section, which just says nothing right now. Now you see that footer section is much more spread out and much larger. That is what we're looking for. So let's finish up the CSS, the regular CSS, before we add one of our other elements in here. So we have that class of container that we put on here, class equals container. To refer to that in our CSS, remember we have dot container. That dot in the beginning here is a selector for CSS, and that says anything with a class of container. That's what we do. So for our class of container, we are going to set the background to, we will say, in this case, we'll go with Burlywood. How about that? Fun little color. We'll set a padding, in this case, of 1 rem. We will set a minimum height of this. And we're going to set that minimum height to 60 VH. So even when there's not much in our container, it's going to look large. And we're going to set the width of our container to 80%. We don't want it on a larger screen size to take up the whole thing because it'll look awkward. So we only want it to be 80%. And whenever we set a width that isn't 100%, we set a margin to auto to go ahead and take that and center it on the page. So let's see what that did in our code here. We have no net representation of the container because there was nothing in it. Once we refresh our page, you'll see that that Burlywood looking container actually is there. We just couldn't see it. Now we do. So finishing this up, we have a couple of things that are new to Web Design 2 and Advanced Web. This is actually still review. So the rule we have is at media. And what we're going to do is we're going to be moving into web design that is more responsive. And what we're doing in this case is we're accounting for a cell phone sized screen. So this is only going to be a rule that applies to a screen. And it's only going to apply if the maximum, at a maximum screen width of 800 pixels. And then at the end, you just put your curlies like that. And that is our first media rule. So what this CSS does, it only applies in certain instances, which in this case is if the width of the screen is less than 800 pixels. So for our dot container, what we're going to do is we're going to change the background color here to, we will say, to a dark, we'll go to dark red. How about that? And our color to white. And this, in this case, is legitimately only to see if this works. We're actually also going to change our width to 100%. And that should be all we really need to do. So let's take a look and see if this works. And this is how we're going to check and see that this works, is when we refresh our page, when we make it smaller, oops, let me see if I can do this in real here. You'll see that at the smaller screen, this is dark red, but as you expand it out and we hit 800 pixels, that goes and it changes color and changes. So basically, if you're looking at your cell phone screen, it's really small. You want it to look one way. But if you're looking at it on our computer screen, which is this, you want it to look a different way. Now that is the last part of our CSS. We have one more tag that we have to add, which is a tag I love to forget, which is our viewport meta tag. So right above, between our style and our title here, we're going to put, what happened to my cursor? We're going to put this tag that's called meta. Now, meta serves quite a lot of purposes, actually. If you do something called search engine optimization, they read these meta tags and do different things. But in this case, what we're going to do with our meta tag here is we're going to register and reset the size of our page. So the name of this one is going to be viewport. And what we're going to do with this meta tag is we're going to say that we want the width of our page to be the width of the device. And we want the initial size to be at 100% zoom. So if somebody has on their phone, if they have it way zoomed in, this is going to zoom it all the way back out so it looks normal. So this is our viewport meta tag right here on line 52. Oh my goodness gracious, I'm sorry. This computer has a mind of its own today. Let me go back to that. So that's our viewport meta tag, and that's the last portion of this particular skeleton. This is the thing that we do once, and we don't have to do again. The last little thing, our viewport meta tag, isn't really going to do anything at the moment, but it is going to be something that is important as we do more with our design. Okay, so this is our first skeleton. Please make sure you turn this in your Google Classroom. The next one we'll do is our index page, and we will go from there in another video. Have a great day.